largely centered around the fact that, look, the individuals who are at the center of this particular operation have never been made the main basis of the arrests that have been taking place so far. So this time around, we are being told by the new government that that is what they intend to do. In between all of this, there's this company that has been at the center of the conversation, Akonta Mining. It's a company that, if you check the Ghana Mining Repository today, it has valid license in a number of regions here in the country. The nature of the operations have been subject to public discussions. The media coalition did make allegations against the company. The matter was to be investigated, and the president made some comments about that, the then president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Now, yesterday, we are hearing from the Lands and Natural Resource Minister state categorically that the company is engaged in very problematic activity. In fact, very serious allegations about how the company has a lease that does not allow it to enter a reserve, but the company has gone into the reserve, and not only that, they're actually selling off the rights, allowing people to go into the reserve to cause destruction. I'm sure all of you have seen that video of the minister crying at a point in time, or at least appear to be crying from the videos that we have seen. And I mean, this has to do with the nature of the destruction. This was after a video had been played showing the nature of the destruction in some of these water and forest resources in the areas that have been affected by this. That will be what will be engaged in our discussion this morning, to try and understand whether the government is making giant strides in dealing with the illegal mining subject, and also questions around whether we need to do more, change the approach perhaps, or what is being done currently is satisfactory so far. And joining me in the studio for the discussion this morning, I have Nana Yaw Sapon with me. He was not here last week. I don't know where he was hiding, but he's back with us. He's a political aide to Alan Kojo Chemanti. Nana Yaw, do you want to explain where you were?
This is not fair. I was here on Monday.
Okay.
So you should ask Shadrach why he put me on Monday instead of my regular Tuesday.
So what you are saying is that there was some backdoor arrangement, so you were not here Tuesday, you did Monday.
That had nothing to do with me.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
But it's good to see you.
I miss you.
Next to him is Hamza Suini Saibu. He's a legal practitioner, also a member of the National Democratic Congress. I've been seeing comments, people are calling him fireman. I don't know what they mean by that, but Hamza, it's good to have you again.
Good to be here too, and good morning to our cherished viewers out there.
Seth Wolashi Meklaya is a mining consultant. He joined us last week when we had a conversation about the gold board, and he's back to join us with this all-important discussion. Mr. Klaya, good to see you once again as well.
Yeah, thank you, and morning to your cherished listeners, viewers.
Joining us on Zoom, Martin Pebu is a legal practitioner, and Martin is also a rights advocate. He does a lot of other things. I mean, talking about governance issues and all of that. He actually signed one of the petitions. He co-signed one of the petitions that asks government to raise or deal with the matter involving Akonta Mining. He's joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Council.
Good morning. Morning, sir.
I want us to start the discussion by walking our viewers through parts of the address by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, where the minister detailed what they found with regards to the operations of Akonta Mining, and that will be coming up on the screen quite shortly. But the point that was made by the minister is about the fact that the activity that was being undertaken by the mining company was very, very problematic, and he makes the point that the government had to step in to deal with the matter. And he was given an update because he said that last month the nation had been assured that they would intensify efforts to trace the financiers and owners of heavy-duty equipment used for illegal mining. And so the update that he provided had to do with Akonta Mining Limited, a company legally registered and granted a government lease to mine responsibly off reserve outside the forest reserve. And so that is it by way of what he was putting out there. He goes on to say that the company has not only trespassed into protected reserves, but has become a criminal syndicate, selling access to the Aboy Forest Reserve to illegal miners for a staggering 300,000 cedis per concession. Worse is that these illegal miners, he indicated, operate under a contest protection, devastating the river tunnel and surrounding forest with impunity. Says they have encroached compartments 49 and 121 of the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve. And he also gathered that a team of investigators who were asked to go undercover to make inquiries about the details of the operation and cover the well-oiled machinery of destruction. Now, in terms of the directives that he's taking, which is on your screen now, the Minerals Commission is to revoke the lease of Akonta Mining with immediate effect, immediate interdiction of Forestry Commission officials involved, with the Attorney General briefed to take over investigation for further action. So that is it by way of bits of, in terms of the update on what was done by way of the operation. 51 arrests, 8 Chinese, 39 Ghanaian men and 4 Ghanaian women. 30 excavators have been seized, 5 recovered and impounded at the operation base, and 2 pump action guns loaded with 5 and 2 rounds of BB cartridges each and 1 single barrel gun retrieved so far. Confiscation of some vehicles, 2 pickups, 1 RAV4 and 4 motorbikes as well, and a cache of mining equipment have also been picked up as well. And so that is it by way of bits of what the minister told us yesterday. I want you to listen to the minister talk about how serious the situation is. And we know from the videos that we've seen of how the videos of the destruction that had been detected got the minister to a point that he really struggled to remain calm to address the press.
Sorry. As you may recall, in our previous engagement, I stated that under the leadership of His Excellency President John Mahama, we remain unwavering in our commitment to eradicate the scourge of illegal mining, an environmental sin against humanity and against God. We promise to carry the good people of Ghana along with these periodic updates. And today I'm here to provide key developments in this fight. One of the most egregious cases we have uncovered involves Akonta Mining Company Limited, a company legally registered and granted a government lease to mine responsibly off reserve outside the forest. Your company, however, does not possess an entry permit into the forest reserve of the Samabro Enclave of the Western North region. Yet, investigations reveal that Akonta Mining has flagrantly abused this lease. In August, as you recall, in August 2022, the Forestry Commission, with the assistance of the Ghana Police, made some arrests of persons associated with Akonta Mining, encroaching on the forest reserves, specifically Compact 161. The docket was supposedly transferred to Accra for further action, and yet nothing was heard of it. This company has not only trespassed into protected reserves, but has become a criminal syndicate, selling assets of the Aboye Forest Reserve to illegal miners for a staggering 300,000 Ghana cedi per concession. Worse, these illegal miners operate under Akonta's protection, devastating the river tunnel and surrounding forests with impunity. They have encroached compartments 49, compartment 121 of the Tanom Nimri Forest Reserve. We gathered a team of investigators to go undercover to make inquiries about the details of these operations. Our undercover team uncovered a well-oiled machinery of destruction.
Now, if you've seen some of the videos from the areas involved, one thing that you cannot help but notice is that this does not appear to be an operation that just took off recently. In fact, the minister made reference to the fact that in 2022, some arrests were made. Now, it begs the question, what has the state been doing about this all throughout? And when the Media Coalition petitioned the previous government asking for some investigation to be done, you should listen to what the then president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had to say about Akonta Mining. It was a time that people had asked questions. They had said that arrest the directors involved, arrest the shareholders, the individuals behind the company. In January of 2023, the president addressed the nation on the subject of Akonta Mining, and this is what he had to say.
Let me respond briefly to the chairperson on the issue of illegal mining. I want to assure him and all of you that Akonta Mining is not engaged in any illegal mining anywhere in Ghana as we speak. Further, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has, through the agency of the Forestry Commission, with the assistance of the military, made the effort to cordon off all 294 sites of forest reserves in the country and rid them of illegal mining as we speak. We will continue to work to ensure that this situation remains permanent. This government is determined to win the fight against Galamsey, no matter the cost in effort.
So that was President Akufo-Addo there, and I want to bring in Martin Kpebu at this point in time and just ask him directly. I mean, Council, you were part of those who petitioned the president. The president told you at the time that Akonta mining was not engaged in illegal mining in any part of the country. Now we are learning of an elaborate and well-oiled operation that was taking place in the country. I mean, what's your own understanding? Is it a case that this was not a reflection of the facts on the ground, or that at the time the president made this pronouncement, that was the state of affairs, and that potentially what we've discovered now may have taken place after his
Well, Akable, Akufo-Addo was doing smokes and mirrors, yes, or smoking mirrors. Double standards. Double standards because, you see, under the Constitution, Article 58 says that he is responsible for the execution, in other words, the implementation of all the laws. So the double standards is that at the time he was speaking, and that kind of posturing, giving succor to Akonta mining, we had our petition with the CID boss. Now this is what happened. As you rightly said, based on the arrest in August 2022, and then subsequent investigations by Erastus Asaredonko, there were two groups. We had the 4 individuals, myself, Kwame Saponesiedu, Engineer Ken Ashigbe, and then Edem Senanu. We presented a petition to the CID boss in respect of this Akonta mining illegal Galamsey in the Tanon Imri forest. Then that was in October 2022. Then 2 or 3 days later, the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, led by the same Engineer Ashigbe, also presented a petition, and it's good. That one was presented to the IG. So the IG, he's not in charge of investigations. So he forwarded it to Faustina Andokofi, COP, the then Director General in charge of CID. So it means that Andokofi now had 2 petitions, both in respect of this Akonta mining. Then they said, they were setting up investigations. They had Superintendent Inkum, and then there was Godwin Ponyo, and then another person. Long story short, they went in there, they said they brought in Chairman Wuntumi, they said they arrested him and granted him bail. They didn't inform us at the time Chairman Wuntumi supposedly came to CID headquarters, etc. Then fast forward, after that, we were giving only one more briefing, sometime in 2023. The whole of 2024, our attempts to meet Faustina Andokofi, CID boss, proved futile. I mean, despite all the noise we made on TV3, the key points and other opportunities, Andokofi wouldn't meet us. So you see where we started saying that, no, this was more political, because Chairman Wuntumi is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP. And so Akufo-Addo's statement was meant to help Chairman Wuntumi, because by saying that Chairman Wuntumi is not involved, Akonta mining is not involved in any illegal mining in January 2023, he was signaling to the CID to stay off. And no wonder they kept pussyfooting, kukwasa, till eventually they were kicked out, and now you have a new IG and then a new CID boss. So it's good that Ama Kofi-Buah is finally been able to crack this, and that they've even revoked Akonta mining lease in the nearby areas. Yes, because the impunity is just too much. I mean, who is Chairman Wuntumi? Who is he? Come on, what kind of banana republic that would allow such a thing to go on. So the other part of your question, that does it appear that they only went back later on? I don't think so. From what the Minister for Natural Resources, Lands and Natural Resources is saying, say a well-oiled machine, from everything he's describing, I get the sense that Chairman Wutmi never left the Tano Nimri forest. He didn't. He didn't, despite all the noise that we made. I get the sense that he never left the Tano Nimri forest, even though we had a pending petition against him and all that, you see. And Akufo-Addo stepped in, clearing agent, mother serpent of corruption, to clear everything. So it's good. You see why I keep saying that, Akable, you see why it's good that we had to change government. Because if we hadn't changed government, was it Akufo-Addo who was going to revoke Chairman Wutmi's license when Akufo-Addo was still giving Akunta Mining so much succor? So it's really good that we have to sack, the MPP, so that you have a different party coming, and then hopefully they will be able to give us a fresh start.
Yeah, but Council, that also raises questions about the extent to which political actors exert or exercise control over relevant investigative bodies, because these are petitions that you sent and they were handed over to the police. Now, this investigation that has taken place, obviously, it will involve the police and the military. How come you still think that it's still the political interference that simply did not lead them to take the action that they've taken this time around? And that should be of serious concern even to the current administration.
Absolutely. Because you see, the reason the political interference is the key factor is that the IG is a political appointee. So you can imagine that the IG wasn't willing to do anything to incur Akufo-Addo's wrath. COP and Okofi Faustina, she was also a political appointee. She didn't become Director General of the CID by writing any exams. No, it's discretionary. IG, the Dampari did not become IG as a result of writing any exams or any other objectively based meritocracy. Actually, he had seniors. You see, current IGP, Younu, whom everybody knew that was far more experienced than Dampari. Younu is the master of operations in the police system, etc., with far more competence. He was looked over, and then the position was given to Dampari. So you see, with all that, they definitely weakened Dampari because he wouldn't want to do anything to Akufo-Addo's beloved chairman, and then Dampari would be in trouble. So this also brings back to the fore the issue of getting, overhauling the constitution in such a manner that the police will be more independent of the executive. Okay. So as for this case, no matter how you analyze it, you see politics, partisan politics looming large. It's writ large over the whole case. It's all politics. Because Chairman Wutmi, he was noted to be pulling votes in the Ashanti regions. And for politicians, votes count more than anything. So once he had postured that he's the one who is able to deliver elections to Akufo-Addo, loves him. Akufo-Addo loves Chairman Wutmi. And so the least Akufo-Addo could do was to protect Chairman Wutmi to continue doing the illegal mining. Yeah, Galamsey. So that's it. As for the politics, you can't take it out of this case. Otherwise, how? A case that, let's not forget, the three institutions involved, that's Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Minerals Commission, and Forestry Commission, their heads came out and publicly told Ghanaians that they did not give Chairman Wutmi and Akunta Mining any mining lease to enter the Tano Nimri forest. Their heads came out. That's namely Abu Jinapo, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Martin Isi, Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, and then the Forestry Commission boss. They are all on record. If we Google now, you will see. They said there was no permit. There was no mining lease for Akunta Mining to enter the Tano Nimri forest. Yet Akunta Mining entered. In the petition we took to the CID, we added a pen drive of the evidence that Erastus Asaredonko uncovered. More than 10 football fields okay, of land, the size of the land involved. Yeah, I've forgotten the exact number, but it's way more than 10. All right, that Akunta mining had destroyed at the time. So we had pictorial evidence. Yet COP and Kofi and Dampari, because of politics, they wouldn't let this case go forward. Look, for the avoidance of doubt, sometime late 2023, more than 1 year on, after we have presented the petition, a journalist asked the Attorney General about the state of the investigations. Godfrey Dami told the journalist that the CID hadn't brought any docket to him. I know the Attorney General is in charge of prosecution, but because he doesn't have enough men, usually they allow police to prosecute some cases on behalf of the Attorney General. So, and also if the police feel any case is complex or they just want to, get a second opinion, they go back to the Attorney General for advice. Yet the Attorney General said no, the police hadn't come to him for advice, meaning that the police think they can handle the case. And here the situation was that the police hadn't gone to court either. If they are taking the docket to the Attorney General, then we could have thought that, oh, it's a case of maybe the case is complex, so they are seeking the Attorney General's advice. But I repeat, more than 1 year after the 2 petitions, when the Attorney General was asked sometime late 2023, he said the police hadn't come to him, meaning the police were sitting on the docket. The police were sitting on the docket because what else? If the docket was complex, then take it to the boss, the master of prosecution, the one that has the power under Article 88. Take it to him, that master, oh, this docket, we don't find head or tail out of it. So can you look at it and advise us? They didn't do it. So Ando Kofi, CID boss, and Dampari were sitting on the docket. And that's what they kept doing. And we kept baying for their blood. We kept making all the noise we could on TV, the key points, etc. They would have none of it, and Akufo-Addo wouldn't mind. Journalists kept asking. You see, so we just hope that this is the last. Ama Kofi-Buah should be commended for finally taking that bold step. Even the revocation of the mining lease alone in itself is far-reaching, but let the prosecutions flow. Because if we set an example of Chairman Wuntumi, it will send a chilling effect to the other people, because then it appears Wuntumi is invincible. Yes, Wuntumi appears invincible. He is even threatened us in other rejoinders, telling us that we should be careful. He will sue us, etc. Now, we'll see who is going to sue the other person. So we commend Ama Kofi-Buah, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, to, and encourage him to go the 9 yards, make sure that the investigations lead to a criminal prosecution.
And Council, throughout your statement, you have made reference to Bernardine Fibu-Esiako. For those who may not be familiar with the facts surrounding it, he's the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, popularly known as Chairman Wuntumi. He had variously been associated with this company. In fact, he has publicly stated that he owns a company, which is the main company that this Akonta Mining operates as a subsidiary of that company. And he had publicly stated clearly that he has all the relevant documents. The company was not engaged in any illegal mining, as had been suggested by the petitioners, among others. I want to ask you, given that the minister in his address makes the point that this time around they are targeting the financiers or the big people behind the operations, are you surprised that as at now we have not been informed that he, for instance, or any of the directors connected to the company have been arrested? Okay,
well, I would say I want to hasten a bit slowly. At least he's just informed us that these are the results of the investigations, and he's asked for the revocation. You see, even the statement from the minister alone, that statement alone, all things being equal, is very far-reaching. You see, he says they've arrested the Chinese and all those people on the ground, right? That's one. Please, can we go over the numbers? I heard 38 Ghanaians, or is it 39 Ghanaians, 8 Chinese, 4 excavators. Please, can you go over those figures?
Yes, so in terms of the arrests so far, 51 arrests, we are told that 8 of them are Chinese, then 39 Ghanaian men and 4 Ghanaian women.
Good. Excellent. You see, good. So if you look at that, and for a public statement, you see, the minister knows very well that once he has brought it out that the license is being revoked, he knows that the next thing is that the investigators will bring in Akunta Mining, Chairman Wuntmi. Let's make this distinction. You know, me calling for the investigation of Akunta Mining and prosecution, I'm the same person who has taken a number of cases to the Supreme Court on the rights of citizens, that if you arrest, grant bail within 48 hours, that's Pebble number 2 versus Attorney General number 2. If a surety comes to stand surety for, if a person comes to stand surety and the accused absconds, don't imprison the surety, make him pay the bail bond, etc. So, Mr. Akable, around this area, I'm the same person fighting for the rights of citizens. So all I can say is that I don't derive pleasure from headlines that will show that, oh, Chairman Wuntmi has been arrested and put in custody. That alone doesn't carry the case far. What the minister says is that they sent people underground who went and collected evidence. Those, I mean, paraphrasing, but I remember the minister saying clearly that they went underground and did investigations. So meaning he's holding evidence. So my delight is not in the headline that would say that Chairman Wuntmi is in cells. No. My delight would be that the case has arrived in court. Chairman Wuntmi and Akunta Mining are in the dock. They are answering, being held accountable. So let's not put too much premium on his physical arrest. The premium should be, as I've stated a few times earlier, is that the case makes it into the law court. And then you have Chairman Wuntmi in the dock. The media will go and cover. The case has been called. It's being prosecuted.
Okay. I mean, let me come to the studio now and engage my guest in the studio as well. And I want to start with Hamza on this last question that I asked counsel. I mean, do you share his view as well that we shouldn't put too much pressure in terms of arresting the directors or the individuals behind Akunta Mining at this stage?
Good morning to you and, of course, our cherished viewers. Akable, I am a bit reluctant in terms of providing a tentative answer, or a definitive one at that, to the question whether pressure should be put or not. What I can tell you with certainty is that this is not a government that drives its policies largely on the basis of pressure, either from the public or our media partners. We know that at the end of the day, we have a mandate to execute on the behalf of the good people of this country. And we must do so with fidelity to the principles of our Constitution and, to a very large extent, our democratic principles. So clearly, as leaders in charge of the country now, we would not be swayed in any way, shape, or form when it comes to pressure, especially when we know that the decision would not inure to the benefit of the good people of the country. But at any point in time that the government, led by His Excellency President Mahama, is convinced that there is a need for certain steps to be taken, I can assure you again that the country would not need to pile up pressure for that decision to be taken. Let me now proceed to the substantive issue before us, Akable. You see, not long ago, I had discussion with a colleague of mine in the National Democratic Congress, and I made the point that I think that as a country, we seem to be undermining the havoc the new patriotic party poses, not only when it is in government, but even outside government. And so for many of us as Ghanaians, we thought that the outcome of the 7th December elections was enough to put the NPP in its place. I dare say that the decision by the good people of this country to vote them out was only 30% of the work required to ensure that we compel the new patriotic party and its assigns to begin to work in conformity with our laws and our democratic principles. And I'll explain why. Akable, we are dealing with a political party that knew that it did next to nothing as far as the Galamsey fight is concerned. Indeed, after 2022, the government decided to withdraw military presence in these protected zones. And it became a free-for-all venture for party officials and government officials to unethically engage in. So are you therefore surprised that we are having this? And at the time, civil society groups and respected citizens like my own senior Martin Kebu and his colleagues were consistent on their calls for government to act decisively. It was on the basis of that that many called for its declaration of state of emergency, because they knew that the government clearly showed an intention not to be committed to its obligation of regulating the sector. And the only way that could have been halted was through a state of emergency. The government refused. Knowing that they have lost power, what did we see them do right after 7th January? They decided to take an active role in the Galamsey fight, daring His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC to proceed to declare a state of emergency. And many of our compatriots, even including some of you in the media, did not understand the kind of politics these guys were playing, because they wanted to compel His Excellency President Mahama and the National Democratic Congress to take hasty decisions. And in the midst of those decisions, they would have an opportunity, or they would get the opportunity to do away with many of the questions an investigation would have, in the long run, revealed as far as their activities were concerned. So, Akable, you can imagine what would have happened if we had declared a state of emergency, prevented mining in the forest reserves like they were putting pressure on us to do, and many of you ably supported. We wouldn't have been able to go to the root causes of this menace. And I remember on this very table, I made the point that His Excellency President Mahama is the one who receives national security briefings. And at any point in time that he was convinced that there was the need for a state of emergency to be declared, he would do so. Today, look at what has come out. We wouldn't have been able to discover the illegal activities of this company, owned by Chairman Wuntumi. We wouldn't have been. Now look at the nature of his operation. It has simply created a pseudo-republic in our forest reserves, where they run their own tax regime, dole out licenses under their lease to illegal miners, and proceeded to even be charging royalties. I'm told 250 grams of gold. So that was the establishment of a pseudo-republic by someone like Chairman Wuntumi. So we must be careful, especially when it comes to the commentary we run and how we purport to mount pressure on His Excellency President Mahama and the NDC in terms of pursuing certain objectives that we feel is in the national interest. We should trust his judgment and know that we are dealing with an experienced leader who understands the NPP even better than us. I can assure you that many more would still come out. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Investigations are still ongoing. And so when the government indicated that we're not interested in those in the pits, but we're interested in the financiers, this is what it means. And Ghanaians must begin to take a cue from this and know that sometimes when you see the MPP singing a certain tune under the pretext of calling for accountability or holding the NDC accountable in terms of the promises we made, know that their interest is lacking somewhere, and that they know that the steps that they are calling on the government to take, if they take it, they would be able to cover up their excesses as far as their stewardship is concerned. But you see, now this raises another critical issue for the Republic, and that has to do with the role of politics in our country and how lax our systems or our political processes have become. Today, you see many people gunning to occupy political offices, not because they have anything meaningful to offer the republic, but largely because they want to use political power as a ruse to protect their shady and illegal deals in the country. And that is what Chairman Owuntumi simply did when he decided to pick up a phone to contest for chairmanship of the New Patriotic Party. And it is surprising and disheartening that the MPP appears to be the only party that people with questionable characters or credentials seem to be interested in, because we saw it in the likes of Eric Amwatin, the sitting member of parliament who was busted abroad for engaging in cocaine. So we must be asking ourselves, why is it that the MPP seem to be the party attracting people who are interested in using political power as a ruse to continue to pursue their criminal enterprise? Interestingly, the likes of Chairman Owuntumi, ordinarily, before his ascension to the chairmanship, what is it that in society we can make references to in terms of his contribution and ethical standard? None. And this is not the first time he has been exposed. I remember that somewhere 2013 or 14, when the Honorable Yunus Afiseni was Minister in charge of Lands and Natural Resources, he also had cause to go after that same company. Samuel Abu Jinapo had cause to go after the same company. But of course, His Excellency President President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo then decided to give them a clean bill of, what's the name, right to continue to do what they were doing.
I mean,
today, yes.
I'll have you just hold on for me for a second, and I'll come back to you and engage a bit more on the approach that the government's adopting now. But I mean, you made reference to Chairman Owuntumi again. I mean, we know that publicly he has always maintained that the company is not engaged in any illegal mining. In fact, some years back when the petition was sent, he actually said that he had the documents, and if he was called upon, he was going to show up and bring all those documents. Now, we are learning all of this from the government. And I want to bring in Mr. Clayo on this for now. And I mean, this is a company, they have 2 licenses in various parts of the country, Western region, specifically the Wasa Menfi West district, the secondary Takoradi district as well, to undertake gold in relation to gold. That will expire sometime in 2031. They also have another in different parts of the Western region, again, Seshiri also West area to be specific, that is valid till 2051. And so there's a company that the state agencies know very well. I mean, with what the minister put out, does it surprise you that a company is in operation and a company is able to the extent of giving the authority to other companies to engage in mining in an area that we are told the company does not even have the right to even undertake? With your experience of the space, what we are learning so far, does it come to you as a surprise?
Well, first of all, Blay, let me emphasize one issue. This issue of illegal mining is a national issue. And I think as much as possible, we should take politics out of it. Because once we start bringing in politics, the whole discussion becomes murky. Water bodies are destroyed. It is the whole population that is drinking that water. And no party colors come into play. Our forest is degraded. We suffer as a collective. So I will beg commentators on this issue to try as much as, it's difficult, but to try as much as possible to not bring in politics. You see, because this kind of politics of equalization is what has brought us where we are. I remember when this government just took power, there were some operation that was carried out, and when the people were approaching the concession, allegedly a chairman of, the ruling party went to stop the people. Right? It's there. The news is out there. What has happened to that? Has that chairman been called to order?
In fact, the chairman was unhappy about the operation, and he had made the point that he does not understand why they were undertaking the operation without informing him.
You see, so these are some of the things. So when we start bringing in politics, we spoil the discussion, as it were. Look, this matter is a matter that we need to take very seriously. And I say it with the fact that Minerals Commission has been mandated under our laws to regulate and supervise the mining space. And I keep on saying every time, how well resourced is Minerals Commission? As we speak right now, they have 11 offices in the regions and some districts, and one head office. There are a lot of mining going on in many districts across the country where you don't have Minerals Commission offices. I would have thought that we would sort of resource them to set up offices in these areas. And with this, in this day of technology where we can fly drones and find out what is happening, within our space and all that, they could be engaged in that to sort of get some kind of early warning signs of illegal activities and nip them in the bud. But that is not the case. We are so quick, to put in ad hoc measures. Putting military people and police people in the bush is not a solution. It's a stopgap measure. But we are so happy. In the past government, even in 2016, I think something like that happened. Soldiers were in the bush. It didn't solve the problem. The past government came, and Akufo-Addo, they had what do we call it, Vanguard 1, Vanguard 2, Galam Stop, all these kind of things. With all these resources being put into these ad hoc measures, couldn't we have resourced Minerals Commission to open offices all around the country and equip them with modern technology to be able to sort of supervise the space?
I mean, one will make the argument that given the situation that we find ourselves in, I mean, the starting point would obviously have to be that there has to be a crackdown, at all costs.
Well, I'm saying it's a stopgap measure. Those measures are stopgap.
But in terms of the sustainability?
Yes, but, after that, what? Do we always have to wait when we have to put soldiers in the bush to be able to do it? It will not work.
Let me bring in Nana at this point. I mean, Nana, where do you stand on all what we are learning so far from the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources?
Agable, you see the way I've been so very quiet and smiling at you. I just hope you give me enough time.
I will.
Because I was surprised he stopped me.
So
Don't worry, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you.
So that we deal with this matter.
I'll come back to you.
You see, I before I come on, let me just do a little rebut from where Senior started. This is a national issue, I agree. But it's a national issue with wings. It's a national issue that has to do with politicians, and for that matter, it is a political matter. It is a national issue that involves chiefs, and for that matter, there is an arm of it or a wing of it that has to do with chieftaincy. It is a national issue that involves corrupt security men, and for that matter, is a national security issue. You understand? So, as a bedrock, then we can make these commentaries. Some time back, Asante Hene Otunfo Osei made a statement when he was addressing a small conference. He said that, are they to tell him that those in the room do not know those who are involved in Galamsey? And that was a very strong, pregnant statement. Because all those who were seated there were top security men, were politicians, and were chiefs. And so if we would want to deal with the matter, and we are serious in dealing with the matter, just as Nana said, or Otunfo said, those who were seated there, they know themselves, they know how things are done, and they know those who are behind them. Yes, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has done well. I mean, he's taken a step. But beyond this, are we going to leave it at just the revocation of the lease? Is that what we want to do? I'm not a lawyer. We have a lawyer here. Martin is also a lawyer. You raised the issue about the veil, that we should take off the veil. I think that there are exceptions, right?
Yeah, I mean,
as much as
if the structure of the company is being
company
used for illegal
is a separate legal entity, there are people that operate behind the company. And now one of the reasons why we will be able to take the veil off is when the company is used for fraudulent activities and when it's a sham, Anambwa. And one other is that when the community or the nation, the interest of the nation is on the line. This is an issue of an emergency. This is an issue of a national concern. And if you have given a lease to a company, there are conditions why leases are given. Well, there are conditions upon which leases are given. Conditionalities. I mean, he's into mining. The concession, that's the size of the land, will determine whether it's a large scale or a small scale. It will determine the type of lease is given. And so, Akwanta Mining presented documentations for a certain lease, a particular type of lease, to conduct certain activities on that land. That is one. Two, they had a limitation as to where to extend their activities. And these two things more or less form the terms of reference for the contract on the lease. So let us look at it whether or not they have breached these terms of reference. One, they were not supposed to go into the forest. But there are evidences to show that they were into the forest. Two, they are not supposed to sell the concessions because it is the size of it that gives them that particular type of lease they are holding. Now there are evidence that they have sold in pieces the concession. And you see, they are being smart. They would issue, and it surprises me, they have the nerves to respond. And why would they would do that? Because, you see, it is not Akwanta Mining that is doing the mining. You understand me? That is, mostly will be conspiracy. Oh, they have sold the thing and they are behind. And other companies and other individuals are doing the mining. So you would go there and it is not Akwanta Mining that is doing the mining. But it is Akwanta Mining that is behind those who are doing the mining.
Because they hold the head lease.
They hold the head lease.
But they may also be mining other parts of the concession.
That's what I'm saying. So they will tell you that they are not mining in the forest. They are not doing this. They are not doing that. Because they themselves probably are not those involved. But of course,
and even
if
lease,
it is
it
yours,
doesn't empower them to actually mine in the
no,
forest.
I'm coming to that. If the lease is yours, there are activities that the lease guarantees you to do. Is mining part of those listed activities? The actual mining, is it part of it? And we actually would sit down and endorse criminality and allow the criminals to actually come and respond with impunity. Actually, yeah.
That's what the law says. You hear them.
The point is this. I stated here before when we were discussing small-scale mining, and when I said that from our side we are saying that all of those licenses and certifications should be withdrawn and audited. I made a statement. I said that if we do not do that, we will not be able to tell those who are involved in illegal mining and those who are actually doing proper mining. You see the revocation of this lease. I am thinking that if the minister would want to actually deal with the matter, one, the land or the concession is not for Akonta mining. They would have gotten it from either Forestry Commission or from Lands Commission. Once the license, the lease has been revoked, government should take over the concession. Well, that's one. Two, they should take off the veil and deal with the principal managers and the directors of Akonta mining. Because they control the main activities of the company. Unless I'm wrong. The principal managers and the directors, they determine the objects and the activities as per the company regulations. Right. I'm not a lawyer. But at least on the surface of it, this is how it goes. If they are able to, they are able to pick up these principles behind the company, they will be able to tell who are the financiers of the activities.
Okay.
If they tell who the financiers of the activities are, then we will be able to know whether or not indeed these politicians are part. And you know, some time back, the Speaker of Parliament, Adwan Swani Babi, he made a statement. I'm not able to quote him. He said that the MPs, and this by extension the politicians, should stop engaging illegal miners from sponsoring their political activities. Yeah. Where are we heading to as a nation? This is pure irresponsibility. And look at the evidence. If they show you the drone pictures, this is in the heart of a forest reserve for that matter. And you think that we should treat this with soft gloves? No. Not at all. And Akabli, when the president, the former president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, made a statement on Akonta mining, I told myself that he jumped the gun. It wasn't in his place to actually even respond. And when you do that, you tie the hands of the institutions that are supposed to deal with the matter.
Okay. Let me come to Hamza now. And I mean, Nana made reference to the statements that the company has issued. The company have actually described the minister's address as false and misleading. They say that the revocation of the license is a breach of the rules of natural justice. The statement, and I read and I quote, "We are not responsible for the activities in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve. That responsibility lies solely with the Forestry Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. It is deeply concerning that state institutions are shifting blame onto a private company that has never been granted access to the said forest area. The decision by the minister to publicly accuse us and call for revocation of our license without any investigation or hearing is just unfair. It is a clear breach of natural justice and a politically motivated act. I mean, Council, you agree that some due process should take place even in our attempt to deal with some of these issues that are of concern? We all agree around the table that they are issues of concern.
Of course. You see, I do not have any problem whatsoever with demands that due process should be followed. And I believe strongly that this government and the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources undoubtedly follow due process in this regard. Remember that this is not just this event did not happen in a matter of 24 hours. Series of investigations have been carried out. They've had engagements with some officials over contact, even at the said site, when the allegations were raised. And that's how come they started trailing a number of these guys. So clearly, they had every opportunity to have responded. Indeed, like I indicated in my earlier submission, this is not the first time a contact has come up. So government is a continuum. They have engaged them to a certain level that they are convinced that at this stage, there's the need for the state to take decisive action. And if you look at the Mining Act, I think under Section 87 or so, it empowers the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources to exercise that power of revocation. And he's done so. If a content mining feels that the minister acted contrary to the rules of engagement, or as specifically stated in our laws, he had liberty to demand a judicial review of the exercise of the minister's power by going to the High Court to demand so. So they should stop screaming. The laws are available. They can go out there and test it. But you see, Akable, that brings me back to the caution from our senior colleague in the studio that we should attempt politicization. I reject it with every strength within me. And I'll tell you why. The mining is a national, the illegal mining is a national emergency. But the problem is a political problem. You cannot run away from it. It is a political problem. Ghanaians know that one of the challenges that we have had in confronting this menace is largely because our political class are neck deep in it. And that we do not even have the political strength as officers of the state to act largely because our friends are in there. Our political players are in there. So the problem has always been a political problem. And there's the need for us to find a political solution to it. And mind you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a state finding a political problem to an issue. What is problematic? I think that people do not understand the difference between partisanship and politics. Your first year in political science department, that's what they will teach you. Political solutions are not problematic decisions. What is problematic is partisanship. There's a huge sea of difference between partisanship. Can I land, please? I think that. Please.
Partisan political.
So I'm coming. I'll get there. Please. I'll listen to you with the greatest of respect. Sometimes what I do know is that even in our pretense to communicate in the interest of national interest, our individual biases will show. Because that is one beautiful thing about communication, especially when you are sitting on national TV. So I can understand where you are coming from. And that is why I'm responding the way I'm responding. You see, it is a political problem. You cannot tell me that the problem is not a political problem. When we had a regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party engaged in Galamsey, you cannot tell me that it is not a political problem. When we had the Kumasi mayor, Sampine, himself illegally engaged in it. I'm coming, please let me land. You cannot tell me that it's not a political problem. When the Wasa East DC was directly engaged in it, you cannot tell me that it is not a political problem when the current sitting member of parliament for Juabin was an integral force of that illicit trade to the extent that the Fourth Estate in their investigations revealed same. So clearly, all the problems that we have had in the sector, and I've said, you see, and I'll repeat it on this platform, Akabli, the New Patriotic Party and its assigns constitute Ghana's hunchback as far as our democratic journey is concerned. They have bent us over, and it is difficult for us to stand up straight and do the things that we are supposed to do. And that is why this change was critical.
I mean,
there's the time for us to deal with it frontally.
I mean, Hamza,
now
the point, and it's a very important point you make there. Yes. I mean, I appreciate the point you're making, but I mean, those who urge for the conversation not to be centered around politics, they make the point that
you are repeating the same mistake. No, politics is not. There's nothing wrong.
I'm coming. If you could let me land, okay. you see where I'm driving at. I mean, they make reference to the fact that if you pick the current operation that is taking place just last month in the Western region, when the team got to Dunkwa, the NDC constituency chairman mobilized the youth to disturb the activity that was undertaken by the team. There was a near clash there. We have not been told about the arrest of this individual or anything that has been done with regards to that. And so when those who make the point about partisan politics, the point they are seeking to make is that you, the political parties, when it comes to people who are connected to you and you are in power, the way you handle it is a bit different. That's the point.
It is not.
You appreciate
His
that
Excellency,
point?
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. His Excellency President Mahama indicated from the word go that if you have evidence of any engagement in illegal mining by a member of the National Democratic Congress, you are at liberty to make that known and be sure that he's going to act. When I listened to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, and he was asked on another sister station, he was emphatic that as far as he's concerned, that gentleman was handed over to the Ghana Police Service to deal with and to carry out their investigations. So if you are in the media and you have concerns about the progress of the investigations, you can cross-check to see what is going on. But this government is not willing to shield any partisan operative as far as that this illegal mining business is concerned. And see, Akable, don't distract me. Let me come back to the final point.
I'm not distracting you. I'm asking questions.
Okay, thank you. He indicated that, you see, sometimes people must be sincere and appreciate the genuine attempts of government. My senior brother indicated that, to water down the effect of government's interventions as far as this fight is concerned, or that the fight is not about soldiers, it's not about soldiers going to the... Then clearly, he has not been following the steps of this government, or clearly he's not interested in how this government is being frontal. Not long ago, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources had to address a press conference and unveiled a 5-pillar strategy of combating this illegal mining. He indicated that first step was stakeholder engagement. There was also another leg of it where we're auditing the licensing regime, because the Ministry of the Minerals Commission had been audited to audit it. Then we have this collaboration between the security agencies to keep the fight going on. And as a result of that, we have been able to secure about 9 forests that were hitherto taken over by illegal miners. So and we are also looking at alternative livelihoods for the people. So it is not just one angle of the strategy in operation. If you were interested and not probably largely interested in undermining the efforts of government, you would have realized that the fact that we announced yesterday that Akwanta mining has been caught does not mean that we are dealing with it only using the military. Because it's a 5-pillar strategy. Okay. And you need to commend government for adopting that 5-pillar strategy. It will only be lost on you if you are not interested and you are not willing to support the government to ensure that we rid our forests from illegal miners. And finally, to me, I will repeat that point over and over, Akable. Like he indicated, I expect the investigations to reach a point where discussions of piercing the corporate veil would be given its pride of place. Because look, we are dealing with a statutory structure. Our 1992 Constitution talks about the environment and regulates how we even have to go about our mining activities. There's also the Minerals and Mining Act. So if you are given a lease and you go out of the lease and engage in illegal activities like we are told that he has done, as far as the company is concerned, it becomes a criminal activity. And it is enough justification for the state to pierce the corporate veil. Indeed, our retired Chief Justice Sophia Akufo made it, in fact, gave a beautiful position on it. If you read the case of Moko and Kuma, clearly stated. So it is possible for the state to consider lifting the corporate veil at this critical moment and going after the likes of Chairman Wontimi. And that is what I would call for. Because we indicated that we all knew that the people behind illegal mining were big players who sit in offices, or in most cases, party offices, financing the trade. Today, we are getting somewhere. And for people to be motivated to give information, the state must be seen acting on what we have discovered so far. And if there's the need for Wontimi to be held accountable, so be it. It is enough. We are tired of having to entertain the likes of Chairman Wontimi, who simply move into politics because they are seeking protection and not necessarily because of the national interest. Okay. And you see, the fight must be collective. On this table, what I expected my senior brother to have done was simply to be commending this government for the steps taken so far. Because if you look at, yeah, that's why I'm expressing my opinion. That's why I'm saying what I expected you to have done.
Then I'll come to you.
You see, because you simply cannot downplay the role of this government as far as this fight is concerned, since it took over. We have told you the number of forests that we have been able to secure. Yeah. You have seen the discovery of communities that hitherto you didn't know that existed in our forest zones. Largely because of the work of this government. You wake up today to weekly press engagement by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, telling you the steps we are taking in terms of dealing with illegal mining. Okay. Transparency. Okay. Communicating to the good people of this country. So you cannot sit around this table and seek to downplay these monumental steps as far as our fight is concerned. Please.
Hamza, hold on for me now. Let me come to you, Mr. Clyde.
You are not more NDC than me, sitting here. You don't know me.
You said we shouldn't talk about partisanship, so I'm not talking about partisanship.
Hamza, hold on. Let him make his point.
When you are talking, you need to have some decorum. Do you understand?
About what? About my opinion?
No, wait.
Hamza, I'm just questioning that there's a need for you to commend government.
Hamza, it was your view. Mr. Clive, you can just hold on for me for a second. I mean, Hamza, we all agree that we allow you to make your point. I think it's really fair.
I was not being personal in my attacks.
No, but at least the point is you allow him to make his point as well.
No, but
at least let him. I mean, I don't think if he goes on the borderline, that's why I'm sitting around the table as well.
I mean, you need to understand something.
So, Mr. Clive, go on.
I will say it again. All these examples you are giving, it's about MPP. Does it mean that our own people are also not engaged in these things, these illegal activities?
Evidence, you make it known. I don't believe in it.
I think you should speak.
Do you understand?
I'm
saying that, you see,
I don't have evidence of any people engaged in illegal mining. No, I don't.
Okay. It's so very convenient. It's so convenient now because it's Akuntadi who is on the chopping block. I am not supporting what is happening. All I'm saying is that this effort at fighting Galamsey is a national effort, and we should stop trying to bring partisan politics in it, because both parties are engaged in it. Both parties. It is not only one side. So when we are speaking,
what evidence do you have to show that both parties are
please, allow me to talk. Allow me to talk. If I don't have evidence, doesn't mean that it's not happening. Yes. Do you understand me, Blay? I'm saying that let us discuss this thing devoid of partisan politics. Whatever effort any government has made, this thing didn't start today. Like I said, President Mahama, when he was president in the first term, also attempted, to clamp down this thing. It didn't work. Akufo-Addo came, he put a freeze on the whole activity, trying to bring some sanity into the... But at the end of the day, this ad hoc measures didn't work. And all I'm saying is that there is an organization that is tasked to overseeing the activities in this space. Let us resource those people. Minerals Commission, Forestry Commission, or whatever, so that they can be able to sort of regulate the space. You know, when we start bringing these partisan things and all that, it doesn't help the discussion.
I mean, but how do you marry that view with the view that we have expressed and we all admit to over the period that this is thriving because of the involvement of the political actors, and in dealing with that we have to name, shame them, and go after them?
Precisely so. I'm all for it. I believe in naming and shaming. Like I was saying, this particular example that you were saying that the guy, the NDC chairman, has been handed over to the police. Fine. If it happened, that is good. But let's see how that develops. So, but this issue about Galamsey, our forest being destroyed and all that, should be a national issue.
Okay.
This, what do you call it, lease, you know that currently mining in forest reserves, you know, has to be scrapped totally. But I hear the government wants to review it. There's no review about this.
They are amending the clause that allows the president to give such approval. You see, the reason is if you look at the law broadly, and I've heard the arguments for and against it, but the law does other things beyond allowing the grants to be done. So that is the explanation that government has offered so far on that.
Okay, so if that clause is what is the problematic clause, then it should be taken away, so that nobody has, what do you call it, the right to go into any forest reserve to mine. And even our laws regarding these water bodies and all that, the law says that you cannot mine close to a river body. There should be a what do you call it, a clearance between the river and where your concession starts. So all these things happening, you know, it's not by the lack of any law or regulation, but it's just impunity.
Okay. In fact, the law is titled Environmental Protection Regulations. Yes, and it does a lot of things. Regulatory requirements for mining forest reserve is just one of it. But beyond that, mining processing operations are dealt with, reclamation and closure are also dealt with, and among other things. And so that is the explanation that government has given so far.
And quickly, let me add this, Blay. Excavators that will be impounded in these operations should be used to reclaim the land. Possibly it should be part of the punishment for breaching, you know, the laws. That you are asked to reclaim those mined out areas so that you can bring it back, you know, to normal.
Okay.
If possible, even they ask you to, you know, plant trees as part of the punishment.
This is a message from Ebo Bachman. Ebo Bachman is also with the Movement for Change as well. He says that until we confront the Galamsey menace as a political issue, we'll continue to make no progress. There's no way illegal mining can thrive without the involvement and backing of politicians. They are the lifeline of this destructive enterprise. Cut off that political lifeline, and Galamsey will be starved of the oxygen it needs to survive. Let me come to you, Nana, now, and just pick your views. In wrapping up, I mean, the next steps.
I think that, you see, the laws are there. I was just going through the Minerals and Mining Regulations 2012, and from section 18 down to 22 down, you would see a whole lot of events that can occur within a single minute. The new EPA regulations that you just mentioned. It is just a pure act of political impunity. And unfortunately, we are surrounded by persons who are so unpatriotic that think that they should make money out of anything, anyway, anyhow. Kabli, when somebody is arrested on the basis of drugs, cocaine, whatsoever, after prosecution, you know that the person's properties are confiscated and all of that. I think that it should be introduced in illegal mining activities. Those monies and those properties that are acquired purportedly out of the illegal activities should be taken over by government and given back to society. In any case, do you need a law for a right-thinking being to know that you're not supposed to mine by a water body because you'll be destroying that water body with metallic substances? Do you need a law to tell you as a right-thinking being that these are forests reserved for national purposes, and so you shouldn't go in there to mine? And these mining companies or these galamseyers, they are led by technically trained people, people with certificates and licenses to operate. They can't just walk into the concession and say that there is gold over there. They need a technical person. And if we are able to identify these individuals, we should be able to revoke whatever certificate they use in operating. Those people should be able to, we should be able to prosecute them. Until we go beyond just identifying these companies and taking their licenses and their leases, into prosecuting and dealing with persons behind these companies, we are going nowhere.
Okay.
And we should go beyond just the name and shame. Martin earlier was talking about there'll be names and shame. No, these people are destroying. Even in times of war, hey, I think that they protect water bodies.
Yeah.
We are not in a war zone. So why are we destroying our water bodies? So if people are deliberately doing this to this nation, I have said that this Galamsey issue is more or less a genocide. The people behind it should be treated as persons behind genocides.
Okay.
If you go to these areas and you see the children that are birthed now with deformities, with all due respect,
Okay.
you would understand where we are coming from.
Okay. Let me bring into the conversation Professor Kwesi Enin, a security consultant and lecturer as well. Prof, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I want to start off with a question that has been on their minds and even around this table so far. I mean, the current operation that government is undertaking to deal with the illegal mining menace, there are those who make the point that it's not any different from how the previous government, and in fact, even this government, when they were in power in the past, undertook the operation. Is that the same sense that you get about the current exercise? And if not, how different do you think things are being done this time around?
No, left to me alone. First, I agree with the previous speaker who called this genocide or an ecocide. People are called it environmental terrorism. Galamsey is posing an existential threat to this country. And therefore, I think we need to move beyond the partisanship and the comparative analysis of which government did what and didn't do well. And I think we need a national approach to this and not a party political approach. A national approach, by national approach, what I mean is elevating the thinking, the strategizing away from party politics and saying there's this national committee, whatever we want to call it, that are giving extraordinary powers, almost war-type powers to bring this to an end. And therein lies my choice of words in terms of raising Galamsey to an existential threat. When there is a national consensus, and this shouldn't even create a debate that Galamsey poses an existential threat to us, because it does. The sheer boldness with which people commit these crimes, the transnational organized networks around smuggling the resources out. Then by declaring it an existential threat, we can use extraordinary measures that goes beyond the bounds of ordinary politics to deal with it. So we put this country on a war footing because we are at war. And it wouldn't take the next 3 to 5 years before most Ghanaians will have to buy water. Our taps will only be for decorative purposes. And the organized criminal groups that are behind this will infiltrate our politics, chieftaincy, educational system, health systems, and basically capture the state. So what we are looking at is something that goes beyond a 4 or 8 year cycle of political leadership. We need a national leadership, a composition of the best and the brightest minds in this country to pull this country back from the brink. The comparative analysis and the comparison between one regime or the other is not going to help us. We have crossed that bridge. Behind us is no more bridge. Ahead of us is total destruction. So we don't have the time to squabble. The time that we have must be thinking through and taking the drastic initiatives that are necessary. And in taking those initiatives, it goes beyond the rule of law, and it goes beyond issues around human rights, because it is the collective human rights that we are talking about, and not the pecuniary interest of a few people who want to destroy the majority. Your previous speaker also said something that I like very much, that we are not at war. You only destroy your natural reserves and your water bodies, particularly during war, so that the enemy chasing you does not have access to clean water. Now, if we've allowed individual greed that has colluded with external interests to pollute our waters, then historically we are the only country that is not at war, but because of greed have voluntarily polluted our water bodies to the extent that we find ourselves. This is war and no more politics. And we need to take the extraordinary measures that are necessary to combat it.
I mean, Prof, how do we make the fight sustainable? And I'm asking this on the back of the reports that we keep having. Even just this year, the joint team, they go to a location, they carry out the operation, then the miners either return or they go somewhere else. A whole community sprang up at a place with their own power system, undertaking illegal mining and all sorts of crime. How do we ensure that what we are doing, which will be at different locations, do not reoccur elsewhere?
But therein lies even more difficult questions, and where I think that we are failing ourselves. Now, I want to refer to 3 documents. One is the National Security Strategy document that talks broadly about pooling all the different resources that we have together to be able to fight whatever problems that we are facing. The second is Act 1030, which is the Security and Intelligence Services Act. Okay. The third is the Signals Act. Let me ask for the indulgence of your team to quote specifically sections of these regulations or acts, and then tie that in to this 10,000 persons community that was found, and to ask ourselves the extent of state collusion in allowing that settlement to start and to grow and to have the audacity to try to rebuild the community. What does our national security strategy document tell us? It seeks to secure a prosperous Ghana with regional, continental, and global reach and influence. You don't get an influence of global reach when you cannot drink your own water. But the strategy document specifically says the strategy will optimize the effectiveness of the security and intelligence sectors by evolving the current systems and structures, prioritizing the use of our resources, and promote effective decision-making through an institutional system to ensure integrated and efficient coordination in all spectrums of national security, providing a new institutional structure which will be equipped to tackle strategic security and crisis management issues requiring rapid, coordinated, and comprehensive responses. Act 1030, which is the Security and Intelligence Services Act of 2020, says, or this relates to the National Security Council, providing for the establishment of regional and district security councils, specifying and coordinating the activities of the agencies responsible for the security of the state, and to protect and to preserve the unity and stability of Ghana. Act 1040, which is a National Signals Bureau Act, is to provide an integrated signal system for the national security and intelligence services for the purposes of, number one, securing the state, and B, protecting and preserving the unity and stability of Ghana. So how come 10,000 people could get lost in the forest? How is it possible that this could take place and we didn't know? And we are not asking the tough questions, because I've seen people from agencies suddenly making big talk. How supervisory agencies allow this to happen? Okay, what it means is that we are not using the structures and the framework that we have established in a manner that protects and secures this state. But it is not only about the Western region. We have Accra Dollar Power. That is almost like an autonomous part of Ghana. Now, if we take these communities in Western region and Accra Dollar Power, the question then becomes, how many other such autonomous entities do we have in this country? What is the national budget that we spend on the statutory forces?
Okay.
And what they're failing us. So when we hear our leaders talking about terrorists coming down south, this is terrorism. As my brother in the studio said, it's environmental ecocide, terrorism. Okay, so we have this lack of seriousness. So when you use the word sustainability, it presupposes we have the gumption and the willingness even to scratch the surface of the problem. We've got to have a national approach to this, in which those who fail to deliver on their national responsibilities must themselves be classified as part of the problem.
All right.
I think we've been joking for way too long.
Thank you very much, Prof. We'll leave it here for now. Professor Kwesi Enin is a security analyst joining us with his perspectives on this matter. I'll just give 30 seconds to Hamza to wrap up for me because you wanted to make a point in between. I had to stop you. If you just do that for me in 30 seconds before
I think for me, basically, what is worrying is the attempt to force a narrative that now that the government is doing well in the fight against the illegal miners, seem to be making some positive steps. The discussion has suddenly elevated from, oh, you didn't say you would do this. It's now a national issue. It should be a national issue. We've always known that the issue of Galamsey is a national issue, and I made that point. But the problem has always been political. And a few weeks ago, when government was being challenged to demonstrate commitment and how different it was from the past regime, nobody told us then that there was no need for such comparative analysis. You simply cannot confront the Galamsey menace without forcing down the issue of comparative analysis, because the laws are there. Akabli. We have the EPA, they are not mined by political players.
Okay.
We have the Minerals and Mining Commission. So the laws are there, but what has always been the problem has to do with political will. And if we have political parties that are regulated to conduct its activities within the law, and they seem not to be doing so, there's nothing that prevents us from using one that is doing well as an example for others to take a cue for, from especially going into the future. So let us get that point right. And you see, when it comes to the national core, unfortunately, nobody is saying that it should not assume a national dimension. It is a national dimension. But Akabli, if you have political players involved in it, and mention is being made of them, it does not mean that one is making partisan politics. It is not a fact. Okay. It's not a fact that a contract belongs to Chairman Ubuntu. I mean, it's a fact. It's not a fact.
That's fine.
That was engaged the DC. So these are the realities. And when we talk about it, it's not about partisanship. It's about the realities on the ground.
That's fine, Hamza.
And we should be forgiving.
That's fine, Hamza.
To make that point known. But if we try to beat down the significance of those issues, then clearly we are window dressing. We are not committed to confronting the menace. That is what I think.
Yeah, basically, I think going forward, you know, we should sustain this fight. The minister must be commended for taking such a bold action. And nobody can downplay that action. And nobody is trying to downplay anything. All we are trying to say is that to be able to sustain this fight, everybody must be on board.
Okay.
Everybody must be on board.
Okay. Now, 10 seconds.
Yes, there should be a deliberate enforcement of our laws.
Okay.
You understand? I am thinking that in addition to every step that is being taken, there has been a call for us to have a specialized court on the issues of mining and the issues of Galamsey. It's that we should push for it, and these people who involve themselves in Galamsey are not, in my view, they are not human beings.
Okay.
And so we should treat them as such.
All right. I mean, that's it by way of our discussion this morning. My guests have been Ananaya Osapon, political aide to Alankojo Chairman Ting, Hamza Suyuni Saib, is a legal practitioner, member of the NDC, Seth Wolashime Klai is a mining consultant, Martin Pebu, legal practitioner, joined us via Zoom. Professor Imano Kwesi Enin, security analyst and lecturer, also joined us via Zoom as well. Special birthday going to Prince Obodai from your sister. I had to do this quickly, but that is all time would allow us this morning. Just stay tuned in. The morning show continues. There's a lot more to talk about. I'm Joseph Akable.